Okay, folks, welcome to So Bad It's Good. This is your pal Ryan, and this is Thursday. That's what it is. It's Thursday, folks, and we're doing a Real Housewives of Salt Lake City reunion part 3. We are donezo with Salt Lake after this, and not a moment too soon. Now, of course, I say that in knowing that Below Deck Down Under, we will see the 3 episodes from the crew side starting on Monday. I've seen the first episode of that, and that actually, I wish I could go back to that part of the season. Everything was magical. The fights, the fun, the laughter, Brittany hitting on anything with a pulse. That was the glory days. Now we are trudging through, but it's over after tonight. I got to tell you though, I mean, maybe it's just that I'm stressed right now, but I always sit there and go like, oh man, it's so exciting that the reunion's coming up, as a grown man does. And I got to tell you, I just like, maybe I don't like reunions. Maybe reunions aren't my favorite thing. Maybe just the storytelling, because basically what you have here is you have all the women, I'm going to mansplain reunions to you. No, you have all the ladies sitting down with Andy and there's some fights, but like basically, I don't know. I've seen all the clips before. I watched these episodes so many times. So re-seeing the clips, that doesn't really do much for me. We're not really getting provided a lot of answers. The surprise with Bronwyn and Todd, we already knew about that. That was leaked before Christmas. And so there's little pieces that we're going to talk about. And I will say what I do appreciate about the reunions, the reaction shots. You have Brittany just like, I'm just so excited to be here. Every reaction shot of Brittany, she's like, hey, ho, huh? Is the camera on me? Like she is always reacting. She's always reacting. So like some of those reaction shots I find great humor in. And the Peacock version, they usually add about 8 minutes. They added 11 minutes to this one, and there was only a couple of things that I found interesting that we'll talk about. But I thought this is well-tread material, and if we're not going to have a full open conversation about everything, we always say there seems to be a show behind, a show beneath the show, and especially on Salt Lake City. I know there's a show outside of the show on all of these iterations, like what happens in production and this, what happens behind the scenes. But with Salt Lake, there really seems to be a whole nother world happening. And I don't know if you get that same feeling as I do, but it just seems like there's a whole thing. And where I do agree with a lot of people now that they went on this airplane thing with such intensity. And Meredith is sticking to the story. The story kind of changes here and there, but and that is a great lesson to all of us. If you're caught in something, if you've done something potentially bad, some kind of bad behavior, just stick to the story of, I don't know. She sticks to it to the point where it almost confuses the audience. It's like, it's a weird form of gaslighting. And I love Meredith. But I will say from watching the third part and the uncut scenes, it does seem all of the women, except for Lisa Barlow, really hold true to the fact that Meredith doesn't play ball with production. And that's a fascinating story if we were able to actually tell that story. We're kind of speaking in code. These ladies are speaking in code with each other. It's like, well, you picked up a phone call with Brooks, and basically they kind of reveal like that's something you're not supposed to do while filming. You're not supposed to be taking personal calls. You're supposed to be in the scene. And there's a whole conversation that happens about, Whitney's like, I'm livid. These people, production is amazing. They actually gave me my life. And I'm pro. Hey, listen, I'm thankful to the production people too. We wouldn't have this show without them. But then if we're going to keep referring to production, let's get a production rep, like a union representative. Let's get a lowly production assistant to come out and speak for production, because I feel like they're the missing piece. Everything else is just missed. Even what the hell was that Whitney and Justin thing? Bronwyn's revealing something, and Whitney seems to be suffering more than Bronwyn during Bronwyn's moment. And even that's a mystery. I'm like, okay, wait a sec. Andy, is somebody in your ear saying, "Do not ask for specifics"? Because it's a very clear thing of, Whitney, you said that you're the fuck up in your relationship when you were reacting to Bronwyn. What exactly did you mean by that? Our cameras went and followed you, holding Justin and Justin holding you and saying, we're okay, babe, right? What exactly are you okay from? Have you opened up your marriage? Has there been somebody else in your relationship? Is that why you are feeling so much about Bronwyn and Todd? Like, why? We have everybody here. We have the elements. Why are we letting these things just go by? Is this something that we're saving for season 7? I get so confused. So, listen, it was a pretty decent season. I will say I started to see cracks in the season, obviously, after the below deck thing. And I thought the reunion was going to ramp up and ramp up. And I found myself just kind of getting like, ooh, going over the grocery list in my head. I was like, oh, because, it's like there's only so many times you can hear Lisa Barlow be offended by what somebody else is saying on stage, or yelling over somebody, or Meredith disengaging, or, just saying that everybody's ridiculous, or Brittany wanting that attention, or Heather laying down the law. Bronwyn comes off. That's what I said. Mary Cosby of all people winds up the reliable narrator. So you're kind of left with this just very unsatisfied feeling watching people that you really like. I really like all of these women for the most part. I really like this show, and I'm just left to wonder at the end of this, where do you go from here? Where do you go from here? And I don't think they should or will make any big cast changes, but I do think there is something to really focus on, is that I think there are issues between Meredith and production. And even if you like Meredith, even if you are Team Meredith, I think you have to be open to the possibility that you can like somebody and they could still have major issues with their employer. And I think that's what's happening here. And mum's the word from production side, so we don't really know, which in a way is almost respectful of these housewives, because they don't ever really let us know of like, oh, that person was horrible to work with. That woman is a monster. We don't usually kind of hear just point blank people telling us these things until like a decade plus later. And that's a little frustrating, as Lisa Barlow used to say. She knows how to say frustrating now, but I don't know. I just kept wondering, where are we going with this? Because at this point, I think, the rose is off the bloom is off the rose, and that do I really believe that these ladies are friends with each other? And, maybe at one time they were, but do I really believe these ladies would be friends with each other at this point? And yes, there's like not a Hunger Games, but there's a little bit of a Squid Game scenario of like, yeah, I mean, they'll be friends for a paycheck. But it just seems to be there's just something eerie right beneath the surface. And I feel like we're getting close to it, but Bravo will never fully tell us. By the way, I just realized this is what I think I fully just launched into conspiracy theory. Did I fully? This is not QAnon, folks. This is Bravo Anon. I'm full Bravo Anon right now, and I know the truth is out there, man. This is like X-Files. The truth is out there, and we will uncover it by studying these sacred texts. By sacred texts, I mean the reunion video. These are our sacred texts. How are you guys, man? We're like 50, we're like 59, 60 days away from our baby. And I know maybe people are sick of me talking about the baby at this point, but I got to tell you, it's pretty consuming. It's all consuming in my mind right now. Like, I listen to Lisa Barlow talk, and I'm like, "Oh my god, my baby!" Like, yeah, I'm thinking about her nonstop, and a lot of it's amazing, and a lot of it's just worrying my ass off. Parents out there, were you the same way? Did you? I mean, would you be working on a Bravo recap and then just freaking out about your child? I don't know. It's crazy to think that this is really happening. We are now 2 days away from the baby shower. Rebecca's mom got into town today. We went out to we had some deli sandwiches tonight, and that was nice. Had a very busy day. I interviewed Captain Jason in studio, and Daisy. We had Daisy. By the way, I hope you guys are checking out the interviews I do. I mean, maybe it's not your thing, and maybe you're like, I'm just here to watch this fool make fun of make fun of this guy while he does Bravo recaps. But I'm really proud of some of those interviews this week. I mean, Amanda Knox and her husband. I thought that was a really special conversation. I mean, today Maury Povich for a couple minutes, and then we had Daisy Kelleher and her podcasting partner Mark McNamara, which I thought was a really fun conversation. But Captain Jason and Daisy came with them, and the Bravo reps were there, but it was in person, and it was at the end of the day today for them. They had been doing press all day, and it was really, really fun. And by the way, that Captain Jason, I know exactly what Heather Gay is talking about. He is hot. I mean, I felt like I felt like Sloth from the Goonies. I was like, "Hey, you guys, Baby Ruth." I took a picture with Captain Jason. I was like, how tall of a building can I climb up to jump off of? I mean, just looking at myself next to Captain Jason, I was like, Jesus God. But I can't wait for you guys to hear that. I think I'm going to put that on Tuesday. It was really, really fun. Also, I had my buddy Josh the Roni Stan. He came on. We did kind of like a Bravo State of the Union, which is so fun. I always just love, I don't know, it's just like the funnest thing to talk about. I feel lonely right now. I wish you guys were here to get me through this. I wish Rebecca could come on and talk Salt Lake, but it's late at night. Southern Charm. We are going to do it. We're going to do it. We watched the episode already, and she wants to do it. In fact, there are so many, I can't wait for Rebecca to tell you. She has a birth plan, and I don't want to give it away. She wants to talk about it, I think. And and by the way, whatever Rebecca says, like everybody tends to agree with, but I really want you to hear the birth plan. I really need you to hear this birth plan. I think, you know what? I will say this. We went out to dinner with her mom, and her mom's actually staying at a hotel. And because we only have one bed now, we got rid of the bed, and there's a big crib in the room. And we dropped off her mom, and then we were just laughing. Like, we were driving, and we were just like talking. We were just talking about the baby, and we were just laughing. And I sometimes don't appreciate. It's like that means so much when you can actually just giggle. We were just laughing. We were just making stupid jokes and laughing. And I will say that has this relationship has gotten me through so much. And I don't even realize how much I lean on her. And I've been thinking about it more and more. And that's like one of the coolest things about doing those Southern Charm recaps. I really love those. Like, I wish I could make her do every show with me, because this job is already pretty easy, just time consuming, but it is so much fun doing that with her. But you just got old me today, just old stupid Ryan. I don't know. I wish this was like a phone call-in show where I could just take your calls and we could say, "Hey, what do you think about Heather out there? Hey, Amber in St. Louis, what do you think about Heather Gay?" Also, Bronwyn Newport did a whole People exclusive, and I was reading through the article. There was a couple things she said, and one of the things that upset me, because on TikTok, so many fans have made fan edits of Bronwyn and Whitney having a romantic relationship, like this wishful thinking, this heated rivalry, and with all these fan edits of like with like romantic music and Whitney and Bronwyn. And Bronwyn's like, "I have seen those," but she was like, "But I'm sorry, nothing's going to happen between me and Whitney." Like she just like let us have this. Why do you shut this down immediately? Like, come on, man. Even if it wasn't going to happen, like maybe tease it a little. Say, "You never know." Well, now that Todd's out of the picture, you never know. Also, I know this might be narcissistic, but I got to tell you, when they started talking about Muzzy and Todd and Muzzy reacting to memes, I felt real. I don't. I felt really bad because I have dressed up as Muzzy, for my own personal enjoyment and for Instagram, mainly for my personal enjoyment. And it was done out of love. It was done out of love. It was done out of making myself laugh, and I was doing it for the Patreon. And I thought, and I ended up. I mean, by the way, it was. I told you it was really eerie because I was like, oh, I'm actually starting to look like my mom. Rest in peace. Um, and it seems like Muzzy has taken some of the fandom a little hard, but it's an interesting conversation about parasocial relationships because as a viewer, we are asked to kind of respond to these things. The behavior is shown, and I have to keep reminding myself, Muzzy came off like a stone cold biatch. Biatch. She did. She came off very, very harsh. I will say, we did talk throughout the season. Muzzy kind of grew on me. And I always say, Bravo editors and producers, they will usually try to show a full, like, the breadth of a person, like a 360 view instead of just like a myopic little, like your worst part. They'll start there, but then they'll try to show a way for the, like this person isn't all bad. And I think they did that with Muzzy, but at the same time, that's what we do. And I do feel horrible, but I don't know. It's that weird conversation. It's like God, I've been doing this for 6 years. At this point, I'm just trying to make myself laugh. I'm trying to think of stupid things to like make myself laugh. And at the I don't know. I don't. You hate to think about hurting anybody's feelings. I mean, and I know I wasn't the only one, but then you got Todd, the Todd father. Todd, Bronwyn says, went and watched the whole series and then went on Reddit and Instagram and Twitter. I'm like, Todd, what the fuck? Just tell Bronwyn you love her and you'll fix it. Don't go on Reddit. Are you insane, man? We just red-pilled Todd. Todd is gone now. It's like, well, he doesn't want me back any longer. He's 24/7 on Reddit. Like, oh my God, Todd. Just apologize to Bronwyn. Just don't take her cherries anymore. You had to get on Reddit to figure out what was wrong? And she said, it's like, he's a shell of his former self. Or, and I'm like, which, by the way, is really an accurate description of anybody chronically online. I feel like I'm a shell of a person. Some of you guys might be shells of people as well. But now the Todd father is a shell of a person. So that's where we're going to start off, folks. And we'll go through it. This will not be line by line, and we'll try to find the right points to drop in. But I feel like, if you saw those first 2 episodes, you got a pretty decent idea of where we're at with these ladies. So where we picked up was that Meredith, in the midst of the plane conversation, diverted attention to talking about Britney's alleged anti-Semitism because of this nail tech, right? And to me, it seemed like Meredith diverted attention away from kind of having to answer her own issues and threw the spotlight over to Britney. Now, Britney usually would be like, spotlight, wow, waka waka. But this was actually pretty negative. Now, Sophie on the Pop Culture Roundup said that Britney knew about these messages for way longer before she deleted her review and did something about it. If that is the case, that is kind of horrific. I do find it interesting that this was a little bomb Meredith threw out. I'm like, well, was Andy planning on asking Britney about this? Was this a shock to production and to Andy that Meredith chose to bring this up? And what confuses me also is that Britney says in something behind the scenes is that she's like, I held you like a baby. We cried and I held you and I apologized. So it is very interesting to see that Britney says she apologized and this whole tearful scene happened, but we only hear about it. This wasn't filmed. And at this point, when we start, Britney in this, huge yellow dress is like, I'm done. I'm out of here. I gotta go. This is bullshit. And she like walks off with this big flowing dress and somebody says somebody goes, "Ugh," and she goes, and stop calling me a victim. I'm not a victim. I'm not kidding. Leave me alone. But come closer. Leave me alone. But make the cameras follow. Leave me alone. And she walks out like the stage door, which I was waiting for her dress to get caught in the stage. Did anybody else go like that dress was going to catch in the stage door? We don't see her slam the door, but I was just wondering, I was like, oh, that'd be wild if that dress gets caught in the stage door. And she's like, leave it. Oh, the doors trap me. Help. And Meredith is like to Mary, she's playing the victim. That's what she's doing. And Angie's trying to explain to Andy, going, see, this is how we found her on the plane, you know? And they're saying this is how Brittany was after Meredith allegedly, even though Meredith said nothing truly happened, but this is how the state Brittany was in. And Angie's talking about having compassion. And Meredith's like, did I pull her hair and dump wine on her? Or did I just call out her bad behavior? And we see Brittany still like heaving and sobbing and saying she needs a minute. And Brittany, this is like Brittany's time to shine, man. And so, I mean, some people have said this is, like, look at me, but maybe this is something she takes very seriously. We also know Brittany's daughter was there with her that day. But Andy's asking, questions like, whoa, if Brittany took the post down, isn't that like, isn't that the thing to do? And Meredith says, well, she questioned it first. She was berated by the public and then took it down. And so they're saying, like, that's what I said, is that Meredith, she only did it because the heat was on her. She was under public attack, Meredith is saying, but not because it was condemning what she did. And Andy seems very confused about this. And Andy's like, we don't know what her intentions were. And Meredith is talking about, well, I know how she treated me when she confronted me. And I know how she has treated me, Meredith says, from the beginning. And she goes, and I was nice enough to invite her to my bat mitzvah. And remember, she tossed Angie out of that bat mitzvah for the high body count hair and all that shit. But Meredith says, then she turned and started lying about her. And Andy goes, well, no offense, but maybe she doesn't like you. He goes, no offense, but maybe she doesn't like you. Huh? And Meredith just stares like, huh? And then Andy points out, and you don't like her either. I mean, yeah. And so that is a good point. Like, it's like, a lot of people on this cast have made it very clear they don't like Brittany. Mary Cosby. And nobody is trying to get Mary Cosby and Brittany to like, it's like everybody just accepts they're going to be enemies. Not even enemies. Mary just doesn't even really give her the time of the day. It's like, oh, what's that in my ear? Like, is that a little gnat? No, that's Brittany. That's like Mary's attitude. We cut back to just the door that says Brittany Bateman, and we just hear the sobbing. It's so unfair. And I know her daughter's there, but her daughter's not the one comforting her. It's one of her glam team. I'm telling you, get the fact that we do not have a glam team spinoff. These are the people closest to these ladies. There's no honest friendship between the actual housewives. The real friendships are between the glam squad and the lady. Brittany is crying to her glam squad when her daughter is there. It's like, I didn't do anything wrong. And the lady's like, oh, I messed your blush up, right? Andy then gets into like, people really listen when Mary Cosby says something, which is totally right. It's what we've been saying all season, right? Like for some reason, Mary Cosby is the housewives whisperer for this cast. And they flash back to that scene after they got back from the boat trip. And Mary's like, what's up with you, man? Like, it was more than 15 minutes that you were freaking out. And Mary's like, no, it was 15 minutes. And Mary goes, no, Meredith. I love how she whispers that. She's like talking in a normal voice and she goes, no, Meredith, no, Meredith. But then Andy's like, well, what do you think about what Mary said in that scene? And she's like, I don't really understand it. And, Mary goes, well, that's alarming that you don't really understand it. So here, once again, Mary, it's not just Heather and Whitney teaming up on Meredith, even though I think they're leading the charge. Mary Cosby, but she's doing it in a gentle, and I think Mary Cosby truly cares about Meredith. You have Bronwyn, who wasn't on the plane, but has seen odd behavior out of Meredith. And she even says, you're using me as your assistant to get information, and then you're totally denying everything that you're telling me behind the scenes. You have Angie K that is not like, she's not as active in trying to get information out of Meredith, but she is confirming. And Brittany is the person that this was allegedly done to. But Meredith says over the last year or two, we've had tension, Mary Cosby, and she doesn't understand it. And Mary's like, okay, so do you remember the things that you were saying? And at this moment, Brittany Bateman walks back in this yellow dress And, and she's carrying a Starbucks tea. Like, are we allowed to have thirst busters on stage? This is a reunion. Keep it classy, even though I do know that the set looks like some kind of like community theater version of Mamma Mia. We're just allowed to bring Starbucks cups, Starbucks mugs. That's just approved. You know, Britney's coming back out. She insists on bringing her Starbucks tea. She insists she needs the tea. Like, we're just allowed to bring fucking cups? What? And then Brittany comes. So Mary's talking to Meredith, and Brittany sits down with the tea, and she goes, Meredith? And everybody's like, oh, what? And Mary's like, what? What's going on? And she goes, Meredith. And Meredith looks at Brittany, and she goes, I apologize profusely. I bawled my eyes out. I told you I was so sorry. And she goes, shut up. Brittany goes, shut up, but we don't see who she's saying shut up to. It looks like she's staring at Meredith, but I have a feeling Lisa said something. We just don't have the camera on Lisa because Brittany goes, shut up. And she goes, we squashed it back done, and we're done. And we're done. And Mary just shakes her head like, I don't care. And then Brittany goes, that's it. Moving on. Moving on. Okay. Brittany says we can move on. And then Whitney goes, I like the conversation that's happening between Mary. I thought, Meredith, it was interesting. And Andy goes, yeah, me too. I liked it. Good stuff. You admitted that you were confused. Yeah. So Mary's like, there's a lot of things that you were venting. You might have been to Lisa as well, but you were venting to me. Please don't say you didn't do it, Meredith. And Meredith says, I didn't say I didn't do it. She says, I said from day one I vented to Lisa. And so she's like, I've said it the whole way through. And Heather goes, well, that's what you do when you stick to a story that you've agreed on. You say the same story over and over. And then Whitney does the same because Heather's doing this smacking motion with her hand. And then they cut to Whitney doing the same, going over and over and over, like imitating Heather's. So basically what they're saying is that Heather and Lisa have concocted some sort of like, this is the story, we're sticking to it. Because I want to point out, remember that even Lisa came back, John picked her up, and remember Lisa was eating a bunch of fast food in the car, and Lisa was like, oh my God, John, Meredith totally flipped out. I've never seen her that mad ever. So even Lisa to John, her trusted confidant and lover, yeah, they make love. She said, so something happened. So Andy's like, Meredith, did you have a couple drinks before the flight? Well, I had a drink on the lounge. Yeah. And so Andy's like, you had one drink. So Andy's like, it's confusing to viewers that you can't remember what happened at the end of Crazy Rich Asians. This poor fucking film, man, Crazy Rich Asians. And I will tell you, it like gave me a crisis of confidence because I saw Crazy Rich Asians in movie theaters. And just to be honest with you guys, like I remember really liking it. And then I've struggled to remember the ending of that movie. And I just don't know if it's like me just not, being confident in myself, even though I remember really enjoying the movie, but also that was over 10 years ago, and I have not seen that movie since. And I just feel like, it would be great if Mary's like, well, I don't remember it because it's a piece of shit, Andrew. But she says she doesn't remember because she fell asleep. She was watching movies and dozing in and out. And Lisa fell asleep. Lisa's like, I fell asleep. And Meredith says she climbed over Lisa to go to the restroom, and that's where says, well, maybe I didn't pull Brittany's hair, but I had to climb over tubby Lisa to get to the bathroom. And then Whitney's like, the descent. It like now all of a sudden now it's I mean, weird. I need somebody from the FAA to come on because now it's like the descent was when the madness was happening, which I don't know if it was like a 3-hour descent, but they're like the end of the movie was the climax of the fight. Everybody's saying. But Mary goes, I vented. I absolutely vented. A little at the beginning and a little at the end. I just do a little venting here and a little venting there. I don't overvent, just a little. But she vented a little and then 100% went to sleep. And then she woke up and vented a little bit more. And so this is where we get lost in the weeds. But Lisa tags in. And Lisa goes, what really bothers me about this whole situation? I was so upset on the boat. So now we go back to Lisa's like being yelled at on the boat, and Lisa starts crying. ugh. I'm like, no, focus, people, focus. We're on Meredith. We've now gone back to the boat, and now Meredith is comforting Lisa because she's crying. And this is where one of the reaction shots is great. They do Angie K, and she's just like, just looking down, like, of course. And Whitney's kind of like looking downwards, like, fucking A, I knew this would happen. Lisa's taking the attention. And Lisa's like, I felt very alone. Tin was rusted, and I wanted to go home. And she goes, if I could have swam to shore, I would have gone up there. And Heather gives her a look like, say what? You wouldn't have swam to shore. But Lisa says, I was empathetic to Meredith because what you guys do is wrong. And I will say, like, that's the thing, is that even the audience then takes pity on Lisa and Meredith because you're like, wow, they really have been in the hot seat a lot of this. But I think I understand that emotion, and I do feel that at times too. But if Meredith is never giving clear answers, I feel like that's where everybody keeps that heat on. There's never been a full answer from a lot of things from Meredith. And I bet the actual truth of it isn't nearly as exciting, but this constant just diverting attention and just bland answers just don't provide anything. And Lisa's saying, listen, continue talking about me. I've said all my feelings. So Lisa, the exact opposite of Meredith. Lisa will tell you everything if the subject is about her. I mean, it's still another form of, it's weird. It's completely opposite of what Meredith does, but it's still really confusing because all these girls are saying that Lisa did mean things to all of them. And Lisa's saying, no, I did not. And then Heather and Lisa just start fully talking over each other. It's not even enjoyable or funny. They're just like on top of each other. And Mary's like, you can't cry about things in the past. Come on, Lisa. And then Lisa does, she pivots, we all do that as humans. If this isn't working, I'm going to go to here. And Lisa will always cry, and then she'll go to yell. And so she points at Mary and she goes, I'm not going to take accountability for fucking shit I don't do. If you see a faded car at the side of the road, it says 15 miles to the love shack. And Mary's like, relax. And Mary goes, babe, it's not that serious. Mary goes, babe, it's not that serious. And Lisa goes, no, that is the end of the story. And Lisa I am not going to say I did something I did not do. This is like the Crucible, man. Like, it's my name. And Heather's very calmly going, Lisa, you did it. Lisa, you did it. Lisa, you did it. And Lisa's like, well, I'm going to start accusing you of things you've done in the past, and you're not going to like it, Heather Gay. Which then I was like, that doesn't sound too bad. Let's accuse Heather of things, besides a dirty mattress. But Heather goes, I have made a lot of bad decisions in an attempt to be liked, and I have boundaries now. Heather Gay has boundaries. And she goes, but I love you, and I'm not going to back down. And Lisa goes, and I'm done, but I empathize with Meredith. This all started out because we're having a conversation about Meredith in the airplane, and all of a sudden we divert to Lisa in the boat. And Lisa's saying she feels so alone, so isolated, and that's what you're doing to her. Which, maybe, there's some sense in that, right? And they're like, well, it's also about Brittany, too. And Brittany's is like, oh, my God, they said my name. Holy shit. I was just drinking my Starbucks tea. And Heather's like, I want to point out, iced me out for 2 years. And Andy's like, stop. I swear to God, I bet if Andy was in a real moment, like, if I was like John Mayer talking to Andy, Andy would be like, it's easier to deal with my kids. It's just flat out easier to deal with my kids. I can't, you see so many points of this. You see Andy just being tired. It's just like, it's the ninth inning. Like he just wants to go home. They take a question from the viewers, and it's about like Meredith and the drug tests. And Meredith goes, I would be happy to take a drug test. I have one here today. If you want me to take it, I will take a drug test every single day to prove to you that I do not do any drugs, because this story is incredibly damaging to my business. Yeah, it's incredibly damaging to a DJ. You do not want this to get out. I will only see DJs that do not have any kind of pill background. That is just point. I think we're all like that, right? But this is another thing where I'm so damn pissed because once again, we keep throwing around these drug tests. We have them. Meredith at one point in the season, when everybody's dressed up in Alexander Hamilton wings, says, I brought everybody drug tests. Not one of these ladies pissed in this cup. Meredith has one right now. I would love to see the control room. One of those producers just fuming mad. I'm like, fuck it. Make her piss right now. You know, like, let's take a drug test for the love of God. Let's just stop talking, and we'll all do it. I'll do one too. Like, let's all take. Andy's like, I'm good. I'm not going to take one. But you know what I'm saying? Stop threatening it. I want to see some piss. But Meredith reiterates she doesn't take any pills and she doesn't have any pills. Whitney's saying this is just from her lived experience. This is the behavior that usually she's seen when you mix benzos with alcohol, right? And then Meredith says, in fact, the only one I took is the one both of you did. You gave it to me. And then we flash back to 2023 where Heather goes, you're just coming down off the benzos. And Heather goes, this is what happens when I give you a Xanax before a flight. And everybody's laughing. And Heather's like, what did I give her? Ambien? And Whitney's like, and Heather goes, I don't know. I don't take pills. I love the fact of Heather, just a drug pusher, you know, like super fly. Yeah. What do you want? The first one's free, just a little taste. But Heather, I love the thought of Heather and Whitney being the actual pill heads. But Heather goes, I have given you pills, Meredith. I gave you Zofran on the yacht when you were nauseous. And when he goes, we're deflecting. We're now deflecting. And Heather's like, well, I'm just curious. What other pills? What have I popped in front of you? Meredith, we go back to her talking head where she points out she drinks less than most of the women. She doesn't do drugs, and she's really tired of it. And she goes, let me start counting their drinks and the multitude of pills in Brittany's pill bottle and the pills that I've seen Heather and Whitney take. Stop with your smear campaign or I will start telling the truth. But Meredith is confused because she doesn't remember saying this in the confessional. And, but she did throw out Brittany being like, well, you know, I'm like, can everybody just, what's in your purse? Let's do a what's in your purse segment. But Meredith said, I didn't say that you popped pills. But Heather's like, you did in your confessional. And so this is just like, we're not getting any sort of solid answer. And Heather just keeps saying, tell me the pills that you've seen me pop. Pills and pop. But Heather's like, it's just a sleeping pill on the plane. But when he goes, we're getting away from the point. I'm ashamed that I said those words. I was frustrated. And Whitney knows how to say frustrated. And I always wonder if Lisa's like, God damn it. She knows how to say it correctly. And for me, it's a struggle. So, and Meredith, by the way, so composed. To her credit, just so composed. She looks pissed. She would be like the best defense attorney ever. You'd just be so livid if you're like, oh, we're going up against Meredith Marks today. And he goes, just to wrap this up, is there any accountability you want to take for what transpired on the plane ride or anything to admit that you did or said that was wrong? I love like accountability, a word that this show is not familiar with. And then Meredith goes, 100%. I vented to Lisa. It was inappropriate time and place. And I did not mean to hurt Brittany's feelings. There's a shot of Brittany and she looks like a little princess. She's like smiling. Smiling. But she says, I'm sorry that she heard me and that it hurt her feelings. And it's nothing that I have not said to her face, but it wasn't nice. And Andy goes, okay, so nothing new that you haven't said before. Yeah, that I feel like Andy in his head is just like demoted. Burp, nothing new. And then she looks down. Then Meredith just looks down. And Brittany goes, there we have it. There we have it. There we have it. So then Andy with Whitney is like, so did you walk away from your company? You're still trying to win back ownership? What's happening? And when he's like, unfortunately, I had to rebuy back my inventory, so I officially own Wild Rose Beauty by myself. I don't know. Is that a smart move? I don't know the skincare industry that well. Like, is this something that is worth owning on her own and buying back her own inventory? And Andy's like, how are you and Justin now? And when he says that they're working on communication and Andy's like, do you resent him? And Whitney thinks about it for a second. And then she's like, no. She says she doesn't resent him, but it's hard. And she says the good thing that has brought is Justin and I communicate too raw right now, which is weird when Whitney says raw. And she goes, we're finally speaking about the hard truths. And there's a shot of Mary Cosby going, zoinks. You know, that wide-eyed Mary Cosby, like, oh, God. She goes, the hard truth about our marriage that we swept under the rug for years, because when you rip off that Band-Aid of saying I'm mad at you, it opens the door for him to say, well, guess what? I'm mad at you too. And I think this comes into play if you put this piece with her walking out during Bronwyn's announcement. I think that is a little clue right there, too. So in our head, Justin is mad at something with Whitney in the past. And so he has been keeping that inside potentially. And then Andy goes, Mary, because Mary, like a lot of us, passed out. She fell asleep. And Andy's like, Mary? Are you dozing off? And when he goes, am I boring you? Am I boring? Mary fully fell asleep on the couch. And Mary's like, were my eyes closed? And Andy's like, yeah, they were. She goes, no, I was like this. And then she does her eyes closed. Yeah, Mary, that usually means you're sleeping. I'm just resting my eyes. Poor Whitney. Anyways, viewer question says, Whitney, you said in the past you faced issues with Justin where you thought your marriage was over. And first off, too, to go back to the business thing, we still never got into the Alibaba, the accusations. Like, this is another Salt Lake mystery. Like, I have no idea what we all decided on Whitney's business. But the question is, like, where you thought your marriage was over, do you feel like you'll be able to bounce back from this? And Whitney says, we've bounced back from harder. Woo, what does that mean? So Whitney seems, and by the way, I will say, I mean, spoiler alert, Whitney, I saw her in photos at Sundance this past week with Justin. And I saw Justin and Whitney at BravoCon. So, I mean, all of these guys, like, you know, John Adore, I mean, I don't know if any of these relationships are in jeopardy. And then Andy's like, Meredith, is Chloe, your daughter, still working for you? He goes, yeah, she's the best thing that ever happened to my caviar DJ business. And she's like, is Brooke still working for you? And he goes, in a limited basis. He has some other things. You know what it is about the pills, too? That's, you know, it's just because Meredith's vocal, it's like this weird roller coaster, her vocal range, where it just goes, it's just like this. Anyways, then Andy goes, I'm kind of fascinated with Seth on Next Gen NYC. He went on there and he said he talked about his desire to be pansexual, which was a hysterical scene. Seth, if you don't want, he was like, yeah, what I want to try to get into what you kids are doing, that pansexual. I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking of trying to. And Meredith goes, I mean, look, I think it was meant to be just lighthearted pansexual joke. But if that's what he wants, and Lisa's laughing. I mean, it's funny, you know. I'm Seth. I want to be pansexual Seth Marks. Heyo, proof, biatch. Andy says, Heather, you seemed really excited to be an empty nester. And Heather's like, yeah, highly recommend. It has opened a whole new chapter for me. I'm very happy. I'm dating. Oh, you're dating, Heather? Oh, well, I hope you will share it on the show. I hope you will. But that's okay. We have it on record now. Heather is dating. So write that down in your little notebooks. We better see it on season 7. And then she says, oh, my daughters told me their last final is on December 9th. And they're like, we can't be back in the dorms till January 17th. And Heather's like, I said, what? I have to hang out with my freaky daughters for a month? This is a fuck pad now. And she's like, record scratch, my whole life ended. So it just made me realize how much I have yearned for their kids telling her they have to come back for a month during college break reminds her how much she yearned to be away from them. But she says, this is my chapter. And read it all about it in my 4th book, Still Mormon. And then Andy says, is Electra interested in pursuing her Greek citizenship yet? Not yet. Andy asked Bronwyn if her daughter was at BravoCon, but so was Jared, and how did her daughter feel about that? And Brittany's like, she wasn't happy. She's like, it's really this really interesting dance, Andy, that we're playing of I need my life, and she needs to feel like she's my number one priority. And I actually, for the very first time in 6 years, I have both girls home for Christmas this Christmas. She didn't answer the question. I'm like, when I get asked tough questions, I'm just going to be like, it's an interesting dance. It's like the lambada, it's an interesting dance. It is. It is. I'm like, well, what's the answer? And also, if your daughter didn't want you to bring Jared to BravoCon, you're like, sorry, I need my life. Well, you have your life. It's on Bravo now. You get that. Like you're making amends with your daughter. It felt a little weird, but she says her daughters are the most extraordinary people she knows, and she can only take a teeny bit of credit for that. But she says, they're the reason I get up every day in the morning and lie to them about hanging out with Jared Osmond. We get into a good moment because it's like, hey, Farford Nugan from Boise says, Lisa, it seems like John, your husband, wants to embarrass you on camera the same way Todd embarrasses Bronwyn. And when Andy goes, when John wants to embarrass you on camera, Lisa goes, ha, 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 like she heard her name and just decided like, oh, that deserves a laugh. And then heard what Andy was saying. And you see it affect her, like her realizing. And Andy's like, what's really going on in your marriage? And Lisa's like, it was a really long, hard-hitting conversation for both of us. And just to remind you, remember John Barlow was like, hey, if we're not on the same page, it's because I'm not on your page. You don't see it. And she cut him off and he goes, no, let me finish. And Lisa says, there are times when I feel completely undervalued. And she starts tearing up. And I mean, I truly believe this is how Lisa feels. Whether she is right or wrong, it's sometimes with people, it's inconsequential. I believe with every ounce of my being that she believes that she feels she's undervalued. And there's another shot of Angie just like taking it in of like, what is she doing? What? And she says when she watched that scene back, she cried for 2 days. That must have been fun for John. Like, I'm still crying. Leave me alone. Put the thirst buster by the door and leave. But she was like, I told him I don't want to be near you. I don't want you talking to me because I just feel hurt. Because how does everything get done if I don't listen? How does Henry get everything at school he needs? How does Jack get care packages? By the way, this sounds like the perfect, this is like a call out for an assistant. This feels like this would be a perfect job for an assistant, but I get it. She's like, how do you have all your shirts and cleaned, all your suits done? Which is all like acts of service, not listening to your partner. And Andy goes, the viewers think that you have an issue taking accountability. How dare you? Why did we take a stray for that, Andy? You think it too. Don't be like, the viewers think. No, Andrew Cohen thinks that you have an issue taking accountability. And Lisa goes, no. Just immediately before Andy finishes the sentence, no. And Andy goes, and listening, no. And he goes, and it seemed like one of the things he was really trying to express to you is that he feels that you don't take in what he's saying and you don't hear him. And Lisa goes, he did say that. And he's dumb as fuck. No, he knows that I know that. But Lisa says, and I've made very concerted efforts. Says, we've been together for a long time. There's time I can finish his sentence and finish his thoughts. He doesn't even have to finish. Sometimes I wonder when people say that, it's like, can you, or when you finish those thoughts, it's like it's like not the thought at all. It's like, John's like, hey, I want to talk to you. It's about something emotional about you taking out the trash. Of course you should, but Heather's like, doesn't it happen 90% of the time that you finish his sentences? And Lisa's like, no, we're like business partners. We're parents together. We're best friends and we're in love. That's cute. And she goes, I think that the bottom line is he knows damn well that I really work hard on listening to him. It's a full-time, it feels like a full-time job listening to you, John Barlow. My God. And she says, "It felt really jabby for him to say that when he knows I work really hard to listen to him. He took that opportunity to jab and it hurt." And then it almost seems like John was like taking like a Hail Mary pass of just like, "Help me." It's like, "I'm going to have this on camera." The one time he's like, it's like trying to break out of Shawshank or something. But Lisa says, "I'm going to be really transparent. I'm going to be really transparent." Um, sorry. She says she told him that she would die before she would make him look bad. And Lisa goes, "You just made me look horrible on things that hurt me." I feel like John's been a stand-up dude for Lisa so much. And that's why that scene did shock me, because it has been the polar opposite of what we've seen from John Barlow, where I remember, if you listen to that recap, I was like, is this fake? Like, is this real? Because I just never thought I would see John Barlow. I mean, even though I thought it was pretty light, I didn't feel like, oh my God, this is the most insane thing, but it was so different from John. But Lisa is crying again, and he's like, "He broke my heart." Way to go, John. And Andy goes, "To me, it just felt real." And he's like, "Me too. Opa, opa." And Andy's like, "You're just beating yourself up." And Lisa goes, "No, no, 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 Andy, Andy, Andy." And Mary goes, "If your husband tells you you're not a good listener, then that means you're not." Mary goes, "Hey, if your husband or grandfather tells you you're not a good listener, that means you're not." And Lisa's like, "It's not that. No, 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 Mary, Mary." So everybody's like, Mary's trying to be like, "I'll help you." And Lisa's like, "I don't need help." And Heather's like, "You're sobbing, Lisa." And Lisa goes, "I don't need help. I'm telling you my feelings." She's like, "I don't need help with my feelings." And this is hard when somebody is so resolute in how they feel and they're like showing it like a badge of honor. And it's like, that's not necessarily the problem. Lisa's a very feeling person. That's not the problem. Is that sometimes is that the feelings are only like a guide, it's not the map. And if your partner, the love of your life, is telling you you're a little off base, you don't have to personalize it to the point where it has to become like this. Does that make sense? Like, I just felt like this is a little bit of an issue because Lisa takes it as like just it's Armageddon for Lisa. And then even all of the girls trying to throw in to be like, "No, it's okay." It's like she doesn't want any of these ladies to say that. Lisa hates to show weakness. And so she does. Lisa's just like, "Oh my God, I can't. It's not worth it. It's not worth it." And Lisa says it's falling on deaf ears. And Mary's like, "What? Yeah, I got my hearing aid." But it's a mess, you guys. Okay, so then we move on to Bronwyn, and we have this extended clip package on the Never Before Seen, or the extended version, where it's all the Muzzy scenes and the Todd taking the cherry and the text about, or like the blind item about Todd looking at lingerie photos that were in texts on his phone. So I think I misunderstood. I think when I thought it was like Todd was looking at some like porn site, but he was looking at text messages that women in lingerie pictures that were in his texts. And then Andy's like, we find out that Bronwyn's father passed away right when they got back from Greece. And that's just real. I mean, that's more real than any of this show, right? And her mom she says in her own way, it's been really good for her mom because her mom had never once admitted out loud that her dad had dementia or Alzheimer's. So it's so, I don't have time to talk about it, but I remember my Uncle Dale, rest in peace, and my Aunt Barbara, rest in peace. My Uncle Dale was, such a great man, and he was a lawyer. He was so smart. He was so kind. He did everything right. He was a good man, did everything by the book, and he got brain cancer. And, we set him up in the downstairs area at their home with the hospital bed and hospice and all of this stuff. And my Aunt Barbara, couldn't bring herself to go down and sit with him. And, and so my dad would sit with his brother or, we all, but she couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. And that's so heartbreaking. And psychologically, you think about that too, because she always looked at him as everything, that did everything, right? And so you can't begrudge. I mean, you know that there's so much love there, but she couldn't do it. She couldn't see him that way. And so this moved me. It made complete sentence. But Bronwyn's like, when he passed, she kept saying it came out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere. And Bronwyn's like, we had to sit her down and say, it didn't come out of nowhere. This has been happening. And she couldn't accept that it was happening to her husband. Ugh, that's fucking real. And Lisa's like, I've got something else to say about John. No. Andy's saying, you shared so much personal stuff this season and want to start with Muzzy. And Andy's like, you can really get to know somebody who's seen their interactions with their mom, and she's pretty tough on you. And Andy says, I think in turn, the viewers were pretty tough on her. And Bronwyn's like, they really were. I mean, I don't know. Like, Bronwyn, when we love you, I mean, unfortunately, that's, I don't know. I'm trying to think about this. But Andy's like, how did that land with her? And Bronwyn says, the first episode she was on, she came to me really upset. And she's like, is this how I speak to you? Do you feel this way? Do I come across so stern? She knows she's stern, but she didn't realize how stern. And she took the feedback as like a good thing that we can talk about. So it was good then. And she goes, by the time the second scene came out, which was the really hard one, really hard things were being said about her. Memes were being made. A very grown-up man dressed up as her. She didn't say that, but I just got so scared in that moment. But she says jokes at her expense were being made. She's still my mom. So yeah, I mean, that sucks. I suck, we suck. But at the same time, that is the behavior. That is reality television. I hate to be callous about it. It's like you can't love it when we support you. I don't know. It's weird. I mean, you guys might be able to say it better than I can. But she says she felt the whole world was turning on her. No, just the Bravo audience. So many people don't even know about this show at all. But she says, and she blames me a little bit for that. Now, that's where Muzzy gets off track a little bit, right? So we're assholes, but also Muzzy, throughout Bronwyn's life, there seems to be been some maybe not even light, some asshole behavior. And if you're going to blame Bronwyn for me or for any of us, I think we're going down the wrong path again when that is this gift given, right? But Andy's like, oh God. Andy's like, oh my God, oh wow. Oh, so sorry. Oh, rough stuff. And Mary's like, but she was really nice. And, she was accepted this last one. She was great the last couple of episodes. And Bronwyn's like, yeah, people aren't one-dimensional. And there's just something about our personalities that's really tricky. We pull constantly with each other. And I think that's also why Bronwyn is such a dynamic, interesting character, is because so many people can relate to that dynamic she has with her mom, right? It's something that we all can relate to in some sense. And then Andy asked about Todd helping them financially, the family, and what did that entail? And when Muzzy got a brain tumor, they needed somebody at the house. So they had a shift of 4 people around the clock being with her dad so she could be at the hospital with her mom. And then they moved the parents in with Bronwyn. And then the dad almost immediately went into memory care because it was too much to have him at home with them. So Todd helped financially while they figured out selling their house, memory care, very expensive. Todd did everything. That's a lot. And that's one of those things that I keep coming back to once the Todd revelation is revealed in this. And I don't know if it gave you guys pause either. And I know money can't buy love and money, but like money when it's helping out with family, and it seemed like Todd, over 10 years, this is family. There was a little bit of confusion if Todd is, oh God, I'm such a sucker. Like, come on, I'll be a different guy. I'll give you all the cherries. Come on, Bronwyn, come back. But like, obviously, no, I don't know. But if he was cheating on her too, right? Or was it just pictures? But you know what I'm saying? That's a lot. It seems like happily went in there and paid for everything. But Andy says it was nice also to see when you were in Greece, he went with your mom to help her move. And that's a sign of Todd that none of us had really seen before. And Bronwyn is just like, she was like, "Do you have more questions about Todd?" So she's like, we're getting into the Todd stuff, and she knows she has this announcement to make. And Andy goes, "Do I have more questions about Todd?" "I do, yeah." And Bronwyn's like, "Do you want me to start with where we are now or where we were on the show and work our way forward?" She's doing the quiet Bronwyn voice. And Andy's like, Andy's like, "What? I don't have time for these games. I want you to tell me what you want to tell me." And she's like, "I don't know what to say." And you're like, "Oh, fuck, she's breaking up." She's like, "It's bad." And all the other housewives seem a little confused, which they seem confused often. And then she hits "So Todd and I are separated." Now, none of the ladies knew. Did Andy know? Did the producers know? What is the deal? And I love it. They do a wide shot of her side of the couch, and Brittany's like, "Wah! Zoinks! Wah!" And Whitney's like, "No." And Mary's like, "Zoinks!" And Meredith just looks down like, "Urgh." And Meredith looking down was so dramatic of a reaction. It was just like, I put like these thoughts in Meredith's head of like, that could have been me and Seth. It could have been, it's like we all have issues in our relationships at one point. And so she reveals this information, and Andy just goes, "Sorry." And he goes, "His choice?" And she goes, "No, it's my choice. My choice." Lisa doesn't seem to have any reaction. And so there's a lot of pauses here, a lot of heavy like breathing. And Andy goes, "Well, what would be the thing that made you say enough's enough?" And Bronwyn says, this year was so hard for her. She said she watched herself in some of the conversations saying things she didn't mean. And she uses the example saying, like, when I was like, "If you wanted to be open, of course I'd try it." And she goes, "I don't really know if I'm up for that." So I was like, that scene when she was talking to Whitney about like, "I told Todd I would do a gangbang," like, so now the reality of that is when she thought about that, she wouldn't be open to that. And I don't know, like, part of me, that made me love Bronwyn even more. And there's a shot of Whitney, and I almost like, I'm reading into this, but it was like, I just felt like, oh, damn. Oh, shit. I thought we were going to swing. Oh, no. But Bronwyn says, it was something I was wanting to be up for if I needed to. And Bronwyn says, I talked to Whitney. It was a good conversation. She was helpful for me, and it was just helpful to have somebody else acknowledge what I was going through. And he was like, "Well, you shouldn't be talking to anybody about this." And Heather goes, "Woof, woof." And Bronwyn says, "Those things are hard for me," which is hard. Like, once again, Todd. I love that Todd finally watched the fucking show. "I wouldn't even agree to have you do this in the first place." Todd, you should have watched the show in the first place. You might still be with Bronwyn. My God. How did you just start watching the show? And then you can't tell her you can't talk about these things. The cat's out of the bag. She's been talking about these things. But Bronwyn said he's now saying he doesn't want to talk about it. "I can't talk about it to my friends, and I can't share public. I started to feel isolated around the choices he was making." And Heather's like, "Did he want you to quit the show?" And Bronwyn says he never said that, but I felt like if I kept doing the show, the spotlight on the cracks in the marriage was just going to continue to be magnified. Exactly. Like, they wouldn't get better. And we would continue to do this storyline. It would be, we see repeated storylines on these shows all the time. It would be like Kyle and Amanda, like a weirdly less vocal Kyle and Amanda on Summer House. And then eventually Todd would wind up a DJ with a spritzer company. That's where we would end up. Todd would be like, this is called the Todd Father Spritzer. Yeah, like, we would get to that point. But Bronwyn says, if I can't talk about them to him or to anybody else, I just had to deal with it. We weren't working forward. We weren't a team. And I was just PR for him, she says. Which, by the way, if you were PR for him, worst PR person in the business. Like, there was nothing positive of PR that you were able to give Todd except a couple front row tickets to watch What Happens Live. No offense, I love you, but like, I don't know. I feel like anybody could have given Todd better PR. But Bronwyn says it no longer felt respectful, and it's hard to separate that interaction I have with Todd this year from the Todd I've known for over a decade. And she says, while we were filming, I kept thinking this is a dance that I've danced too many times. So she said while we were filming. So it is interesting. So I do think that Bronwyn has thought of this. And I would be interested, not that it's really our full business, but I would be interested. I don't feel like she came on the show to do this, but I do think Bronwyn's a very smart person. And I don't mean smart as in the sense of, oh, she planned this and she's trying to get some money. No, none of that. But I do think, and especially I think that's the beauty of like kind of low level or like not low, mid-level celebrity that they get from these shows is there is such an intense love and an intense hatred shown that it can really goose you up at the right time. That like it can give you confidence that you might not have had up to that point, and it can make you think that you can do hard things. But Bronwyn says, I show up to rally around the choices that Todd makes on behalf of Todd, not on behalf of myself. And he says, what was his reaction to your calling for a separation? And Bronwyn says, it was maybe the worst thing I've ever done was having to tell Todd I wanted him to go. And this is why I'm a horrible person. I was like, that would have been an amazing scene on reality television. That would have been so fucking real. And thank God we don't have it, but there'll always be that scene. I'm like, I wonder what it looked like. Isn't that horrible? My brain's broken, you guys. But Bronwyn says, I feel like he doesn't really feel like he knows why we're in that position. And I'm like, well, let's just, even if you don't feel it, we could just easily start with girls are sending you lingerie pictures, right? And it seems like it's happened more than once. And what, by the way, Andy never asked about Todd fucking farting and making out with Lisa Barlow's friend. Like I fucking forgot about that mystery. We still haven't cleared up the farting at all. What if Braun was like, the reason was it was just noxious gas all over, you know? That was good. Once again, Braun's PR. But Braun says Todd, after a couple of days, texted her and said, I watched the entirety of the show. God. And he was like, it's good. It's really a good show. I can see why people freak out over the show. He's like, fuck Jen Shaw, right? What is Monica Garcia? But he said he started at season 1, watched every episode. Would it be great if, by the way, Todd, if you're listening, come on the show, brother. And in fact, I'll go you one better. Start recapping Salt Lake with me, brother. I think you can tell I'm on my last legs here. You know, like, this is Todd and Ryan on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Come on, brother. But then he goes, he read everything on Reddit, and Andy's like, oh, fuck. Andy's like, Andy's like, what did I create? And he goes, he searched his name on Reddit. He got a Twitter account. He looked on Instagram. He got an OnlyFans account. No, he had that one. And was just a decimated version of himself. Called me beside himself. Oh, hey, Bronwyn, it's me, Todd. I'm gonna need you to call me back. Have you heard of this thing called Reddit? Holy shit. Did you talk about me farting on the show? Like, but everybody, I love when they say the Reddit thing, everybody has a reaction on the stage. Everyone's like, oh God. You know, even the control room's like, no. Oh, that's the dark side of fame, right? I mean, that's brutal. I gotta tell you, I'm sorry, Todd. I'm sorry, Bronwyn, mainly, obviously. I'm sorry. But Whitney asks, are you living with him? And Bronwyn says, no. And so she's living in Utah, and he's here in New York, where they're filming right now. And she says she will not see him while she's here for this. And that's where I was like, I said this last week, I think with Ace, where I was like, there needs to be like I wish more people were old like me and remember the movie Say Anything with John Cusack. But that scene with the boombox, there used to be a thing called boomboxes. We didn't have phones, and you held it, and they played the Peter Gabriel In Your Eyes. And John Cusack, even though Rebecca now in retrospect says to go back and rewatch that movie, and it's not as romantic, it's actually pretty creepy. Regardless, though, when you're a teenager watching that film, you think it's pretty beautiful. And, you know, it's like John Cusack's out there, like putting the boombox, and, you know, it's like this romantic gesture. And I just want Todd to do that for Bronwyn. And then Andy goes, Whitney, you're really emotional hearing about this. What are you thinking? And Whitney, I love that Andy goes, you're really emotional, but they look at Whitney. It's like she's not like overly crying, but maybe just felt like intense on stage. And Whitney goes, I just relate so much to Bronwyn, and it's especially hard. And I'm just personally going through something really hard myself. And Bronwyn says, I know. Okay. what is the personally hard thing you're going through? And if we're gonna yell about Meredith in this fucking airplane, then I love that it's like we just don't even give a fuck about Whitney where we even care about these. I care about these storyline. What hard thing that Bronwyn knows that you're going through are you going through? Maybe, guys, and I'm serious, maybe that's where we start with season 7. But Whitney says, I'm on the reverse. I'm on the reverse of Bronwyn. This is the sacred text we need to study. So the reverse of Bronwyn would be that she is the Todd. And she says, I'm the one that feels like I always fuck up, Whitney says. And so she's so emotional because she's relating. And it's not because Justin's the most incredible husband. He's the most incredible man alive. How dare you, Whitney? I'm standing right here. And she goes, he's so amazing. And I'm the one on the show that's always fucking it up. And Mary goes, it's not true. It's not true. I love Mary goes, I don't know. Maybe it's true. I don't know. And Whitney says, the dynamic is hard. And unless you're in it, you know it's hard to understand. And now she's like, Whitney's really crying. And by the way, they keep shooting to Heather. And Heather kind of like looks like how dare you speak of the secret Salt Lake cities of salt? Like, I don't know, understand Heather's look. And then she asks for a minute. And Whitney walks off stage. Not screaming like Brittany, but just walks off stage, and she says she needs to see Justin. And then there's a camera guy. I love Justin has a thirst buster with him. And Whitney hugs Justin, and she's crying and says Bronwyn said that her and Todd are separated. And it just triggered her. And I just love that there's a camera guy right in their face. And this is not a moment like Justin's like, get the fuck out of here, man. I'm having a moment with my wife. They just don't even see the camera guy. But when he's like, it's just like everything that we're going through, I just feel so bad. And she goes, I tried to keep, so everything we're going through, I just feel so bad. So there's something big here. And Justin goes, you're strong. You got this. We're good. You know we're good, right? Right? And so my thought was, Whitney's talked about, I mean, there's always been those swinging rumors. We always joke about them, but like maybe Whitney has gone out. And she said that in that scene with Bronwyn earlier this season, is that like she sometimes goes out and does things and there's that trust between Justin and Whitney. So what exactly is that? And I just find it so weird is that everybody is checking into like Lisa Barlow's finances and all that. And I feel like the audience just really like, well, whatever Whitney wants to do, I don't know. Who cares? Like it's like, what is going on? Andy to Bronwyn says there seems to still be a lot of love with you guys. And Bronwyn's like, I adore Todd. I worry about Todd. And he goes, Todd asked me, do you really feel I don't look at you? Was me taking the cherry really that big of a deal? Like he was genuinely confused, she says. And Heather goes, yes, it was. Taking the cherry was a huge thing. And Bronwyn says he thinks we have a history where he has shown up for me and loved me and been my friend and been my supporter. So who cares if he ate a cherry? I've given your family $300,000 this year alone. Can I just have a cherry? But it was symbolic. It was. And I love Mary. But when he goes, but when Bronwyn says, like he says, who cares if he doesn't look me in the eye, most of conversations. And Lisa goes, that sounds like a normal guy. And Lisa laughs, ha, 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 ha. And then Mary goes, I'm on a different planet because I thought that it was cute that he took the cherry. Very Cosby. Very Cosby. Very Cosby. She goes, that was my favorite part. Mary's idea of romance is a little different than I think a lot of ours. But she goes, I thought it was cute. I didn't think he meant harm. Yeah, he wasn't like, I want to fucking eat your fucking cherry. And Mary goes, if Robert Sr. did that was a joke. He just would have took it, Okay. Yeah. But Andy says, if I asked you that if you felt that the show broke you up, you would say what? And Bravo says, the show didn't break us up. I would say we were growing in different directions, and the show put a spotlight on that. Okay. Andy's like, okay, good. Phew. I didn't want to feel bad tonight. And then, Andy's like, what about reconciliation? What do you think? And she's like, I don't want to even, speculate on that. And, but it kind of seemed like that it seemed pretty resolute that, it wasn't like, well, we're working on it or I mean, I think it's done. I think she's done. I think she's getting very comfortable, but I would find that an interesting storyline of Todd trying to woo her back. I don't think this is the last we've seen from Todd, weirdly enough. Like maybe Todd will come back next season and just be, Professor Positive. Who knows? Okay, then we have this whole scene with Heather and Meredith once again about calling Heather a liar, and Heather's offended. And I can see it was on the extended version, and I can see why it didn't make it to the actual air. I'm like, yeah, okay, what? I don't care. And then we get into Meredith taking that phone call from her son on the Greece trip. And they're like, Brittany, why were you offended about it? It's like, well, we all wanted to talk to our kids. And Meredith was in the hot seat. And if I had done that, I would have been destroyed. And I love that she used the term hot seat. So it was like they're saying that Meredith was on the hot seat and she took the phone call from her son. And so it was deflecting from her being in the hot seat, right? And they're like, was it a problem for everybody else or just Brittany? And Lisa goes, not me. But Bronwyn says she was irritated by it. Heather was. Angie was. It was Mother's Day for everybody. And Bronwyn was like, when I heard about you were upset about losing it for not talking to Brooks. And Mary goes, I was not just upset about losing it for Brooks. And Andy goes, well, what was it then? And Mary goes, you know what? It's just another issue that's just not really ever to go anywhere. And Andy's like, talk about it. So this is Meredith's issue. Andy's like, talk about it. And then Andy goes, you were mad at production about something? And Meredith shakes her head, yes. And Andy goes, what this time? What this time? Which means there's been many times. For Andy to be very aware of Meredith having issues with production, what this time? And Meredith's like, you know what? This is just like, it's a lot. It's not going to go well. For who is it not going to go well? And Whitney says she has a big problem with this. She goes, all day I've heard you throw production under the bus. And we flash back throughout the day of like, this was a full setup that I was tracking all the way through. I felt set up from production. And Whitney goes, I have a big problem. There's a second half to why we were recognized in Us Weekly. I love that the Us Weekly cover story, which an amazing listener sent me. I've got the cover story right here. Look at this. Look at this beauty. I love that it's like, there's a reason why we're on the cover of Us Weekly. Because production helped us. I'm singing out the praises of production, Whitney's saying. But Whitney's like, there's an entire team behind the scenes, and I've been hearing you all day under your breath. Throw them under the bus. And you are a liar, Meredith. Call me a liar all you want. You are lying. And I'm so sick of you throwing our team under the bus because I have opened up my life because of our team. Well, not the fucking thing that you're the fucking Justin mystery. And for you to sit here and throw them under the bus. And Mary's crying, and Anne's like, Mary, why are you crying? And Mary's like, because I don't like that you would talk about our production. And Brittany goes, I don't like it either. I love how close these ladies, but also that's another clue too, is that how close production really makes these feel like they really form this bond. And sometimes in that's why I feel like Kyle is almost very unwatchable in season 15. I mean, it's just like, I think you get so wrapped up and these production become your family. And when he's like, we're only here because of them. And Mary's like, what did I say that was bad? And when he says, when we're at work, it's expected that we're not on our phones. We're engaged in the conversations. And then he goes, but what set you all off about her being on the phone? And Whitney says, because she was getting out of being in the hot seat. So there it is. And Brittany's like, it was just an excuse to not face the music. And Mary's like, we couldn't just pick it back up in 3 to 5 minutes. And when he says no, because then you victimize yourself and make us feel bad. And so this is how this is why good bands break up, It's like you just get sick of each other's bullshit. So this is why I think it's, these ladies have very strong opinions about everybody's work ethics, and they're so used to how how they all fight that they all see through each other at this point. But when he's like, there's always some grand big thing that happens and then we can't bring it up, Meredith. Yeah, I think Whitney nails it. And then I think this was the last interesting scene when Bronwyn got into it with Meredith, where saying, I didn't make a single accusation about you, Meredith. I spoke from my own experience. You did make an accusation. He's like, what accusation did I make? And Meredith says that my husband was on a date. And Bronwyn says, I said 3 times, I don't know who he was. It's not my place to say. You haven't seen where Todd and I both said there is no way that's what's going on. But what we both said was if Todd was out and one of you had seen Todd, that would have been what was run with. And I've never seen anything. Oh, and Meredith says, I've never said anything about Todd, Bronwyn. And Bronwyn goes, no, but you sat idly by while your bestie Lisa has over and over and over again. And it wasn't a problem that my marriage was talked about until Brittany talked about your marriage. And Meredith's like, did I ever contribute to saying anything about your marriage? And Bronwyn says, you didn't contribute to stopping it. You never once were outraged that how dare we speak about someone's marriage and make an unfounded accusation until it was your marriage that had an unfounded accusation. And Meredith's like, why would I speak up in that moment? And Bronwyn goes, you know why, Meredith? I thought we were fucking friends. That's why. So it's like, these are great 2 sides of Bronwyn. We saw the teary, like, broken Bronwyn, and then we see the, like, fuck you. And she's pretty good with her words when she gets into that fuck you. And Bronwyn goes, and you want to get into the you and me not being friends? Or I'm just your fucking assistant? Let's get into that. I'm sure that's what's next. And Meredith goes, I don't think I've asked you to do much. And Bronwyn goes, oh, you don't think you asked me to do much? Just report back to you on what all my conversations were with everyone and then sit there and eat shit when you out me in front of everybody else and then be like, oh, that was off camera. We can never prove it. Convenient, Meredith. And Meredith goes, I didn't say we didn't have a conversation in my room. We had a disagreement on what was said exactly. And Bronwyn says, I valued our friendship this year, and I think you and I have a lot in common and could be good friends, and I would love for that to happen. But today, you are not going to do this question or statement bullshit with me. You're not going to do it. We're going to have some come to Bronwyn and Meredith conversation about what happened. All of us have to sit here and have hard conversations. Why are you above it? Sit the fuck down and talk through it with us. Don't talk to me like that. So Bronwyn's like, why do we have to have all the tough conversations and you don't? Why are you above it? I mean, that's it. That's the thesis statement. And he's like, don't talk to me like that. I absolutely will. You talk to me that way in my room, ranting and raving that this was all happening, Meredith. And Bronwyn says, you scared me into your sink. You were yelling at me. What was happening? And Andy's like, Meredith said she never asked you about the lunch. And Meredith goes, we did have a conversation about lunch, but I didn't ask. I love Meredith's like, well, I did. Were the chicken, fish, I love lunch. But Bronwyn says, you asked me and I didn't want to tell you what happened at our lunch. And Meredith says, I didn't say what everyone was saying, Bronwyn. And Heather's laughing. And Meredith goes, I don't care what anyone said. That's what? And Andy's like, do you feel used by Meredith? Bronwyn says she does feel used. And Andy goes, Meredith, what's your response to her feeling used by you? And Meredith's like, it won't hold up in court. No, Meredith says, I'm not using you and I'm not trying to gain anything from you at all. And Bronwyn's like, so you didn't gain the upper hand when I said to you, there's an accusation about you that I feel is a dangerous implication. And Meredith goes, you volunteered that to me, Bronwyn, you dum-dum. And Bronwyn says, instead of just being prepared to handle the conversation, you deflected Meredith from having to answer that for saying Whitney. And then Andy goes, information is power, right? And Bronwyn says, you put words in my mouth when you talked to Lisa about Brittany. And then the two of you turned it into, she's an alcoholic and a little birdie told me. And everybody's like, these are people on this couch who deal with those addictions. So stop it. And then we flash back to that scene of Meredith in the bathtub to Whitney, where Meredith does iconic bathtub work. I was told she does nonstop drinking all day and night to the point of vomiting, would go throw up, and then just start drinking all over again. It's clearly unusual behavior. Whitney says she has a problem with that because for weeks she could not get Meredith to accept a conversation with me, but then they turn around and call her an alcoholic. In terms of Brittany. And Bronwyn says, this is the problem. You talk to me off camera, Meredith, or you text me to come to your room when there's no cameras, or I see you with your hand over your mouth in the Sprinter telling Heather, let's talk privately, or I called you when we weren't. And Meredith goes, I know it's getting recorded. And Heather goes, she always wants one-on-one. She doesn't want group scenes. She wants one-on-one. And Meredith goes, that's true. I wanted a resolution. Every time I tried to do it in the group, everybody's yelling and screaming, so I couldn't. And Bronwyn says, that feels convenient to me. I feel like you do stuff off camera so that when it comes on camera, you can say, that's not what I said. That's not what happened, and no one can prove it. So, Bronwyn's not insane, you guys. And Meredith goes, Bronwyn, in case it didn't land, because I feel like we got sidetracked, I would never want you to feel that I was using you. I'm not using you. I'm sorry that came off that I was. I mean, when we are wanting information from people and we're like desperate and scared, we sometimes don't think that we're actually using people. Like, that's not, we're like, I'm going to use this person. Like, we don't think about that. We don't be like, I'm using this person. You're just trying to get shit, right? But Meredith says, I do not want you to feel that way, and I am sorry. And but Bronwyn accepts the apology from Meredith. Oh, God. Then we get into Angie and Lisa and saying that they're trying to be good. And Lisa's like, from this day forward, there's no use in going backwards. I want to move forward with you. But Lisa was hurt because she heard Angie saying things like that she was potentially ruining the show or something like that. But Lisa's saying from this day on, she wants to move forward and she will never bring up anything from the past. And she can move forward straight from today forward. Which I'm like, there's no fucking way, but great. And Andy's like, okay, good. Can we end it? Okay, good. Okay. Great. Andy's like, okay, good. And we're going to leave it there, Andy says. And then you guys, they go around and say, Andy's like, what's one thing you, which is, I just imagine how he deals with his kids. What's one thing you learned today, kids? And they go around and it's all like, there's some interesting things said, but nothing like, Bronwyn, I thought was interesting and was saying, I used to think that change was bad and it meant a failure, but also, she's learning that change can be a good thing. And Lisa's like, Andy, you'll love mine. And Andy's like, great. What is it? Intake. Yes. I have to listen and stuff. It's like, I feel like it's like what they're wanting the teacher to hear. Like, do you give me an A? And then they all toast with baklava, but Mary Cosby says she can't eat it, but it looks delicious because she doesn't eat sugar. So that's it, folks. That's where we end it. Thank God. Thank the God. Thank the Sisters of Salt. I'd give the overall, if we ended after that Below Deck episode, that triumphant 3 episodes, I would have given the season an A+. By the end of the season, I would give it maybe a B-. And if you threw the reunions in, I would almost I hate to give it a C+, but maybe I would just do a B-. Overall, I can't wait to put these ladies fully to bed and forget about them a little so we can recharge and be excited to see them again for season 7. I do not think we will see any big casting changes unless there truly is. And if Meredith goes for some reason or gets demoted, I think that really will show you that there is an issue with production, that even production has a hard time working with Meredith. But I know now for a fact from things I heard, not with this show, but other shows, production will put up with a lot. They will put up with a lot. And I think Meredith, I don't know. I think there's a path forward with Meredith. So that's it, folks. I hope you have a great Thursday. Make sure you watch, if you want to watch Beverly Hills, but more importantly, watch the Valley Persian Style. We've got Amir and Natasha on Friday, and I talked to Sky from the Valley Persian Style today as well. It's been a busy day, folks. Anyways, thank you so much. I don't know what I'm doing. I hope you enjoyed this. Be easy on me. I'm sensitive. I'm like Todd. I love you guys. Bye.